Okay, Siman Reish Tzadivov Dine Havdala Alayayin. It's a very interesting Havdala. How the halachas of Havdala. Now, I must tell you something. We'll learn, Mr. Hashem, today and tomorrow we'll do the halachas of Havdala. Not a lot of people get it right. My experience is, I mean, Rabbi Roberts, I heard this from Rabbi Roberts, and he wrote a kuntras, like a little essay in the Shul magazine, just to go through exactly what to do. Nothing, no chokhmas, just how you make Havdalah, which hands you hold what in, when you switch, all the rest of it. Just, if you look around, a lot of people don't do it quite right. So Mr. Hashem will try and figure out how to get it right. Okay, Seder Havdala. So the Seder Havdala is Yain B'Somim Ner Havdala. That's the order. V'Simonech Yavne. That's the way to remember. Yavne is Rosh Tevas Yain B'Somim Ner Havdala. V'Tzorich Lizaheh Shelo Yeh HaKos Pogum. You've got to be careful that the kos is not pogum, which means that you haven't drunk from it, and it's a kos which is kosher lebracha. Let's see let's see the Mishnah Berurah till there. Seder Havdala. Hine Harambam Soiver. This is very interesting. The mitzvahs Havdala hidva Torah k'may kiddush. The Rambam famously holds that Havdala is min Torah. V'hu bichlal zoches yom Shabbos lekatshay. Shetzorich lizkar oisei lekatshay ben b'knisosei ben mitziosei. You have to remember Shabbos both at the beginning and at the end. And that's a mitzvah deraisa, says the Rambam. B'knisa b'kiddush u'v'yitzia b'havdala. Lo mashu muvdul b'kedusha b'reish u'b'soif mish'ar yomim. That is distinct from other days, both in the beginning and at the end of the day. If you look at footnote number 2, which is at the back of the Sefer, on page 24, Reish Sadi Hey, the bottom there. Mishum kach, you can see that at the bottom. Mishum kach, ha'omer lechaveiroi, which is something which came up the other day. Ha'omer lechaveiroi shavua tov, or he says like gitavach, or whatever he says. Das haganum shlomo zalman Auerbach, she'einu yotzi b'zeh yedei choves havdala. That is not enough of a havdala. Kiven shetzorech amira al havdala, you need a proper amira. V'lo by the die. Ba'amira shvach ba'alma. You've got to be mavdil being kodesh l'chol, and it's not just like a praise, a very pleasant greeting. V'chein das hagon nissen kareletz. V'hoisiv shafilim kiven ba'amira zu l'shem avdala lo yasa. Even if you intend to say, with your gitavach or shavua tov, that's not good enough. Kiven she'ein ba'amirosa havdala kedush Shabbos mishayomim. The point is, you got to be mavdil between the kedush of Shabbos and Yom Tov. And therefore, like I said, if for some reason you didn't make this, you forgot to say Atzachin Antonu, and you've got to get in your car to drive home, you say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'chol before you get into the car. Okay, so the Rambam holds this deraisa. The Yesh Oimrim Shum Divrei Seifrim. There are those who hold that Havdalah is drabonon. V'asmechu akron, it's just an asmachta. V'tzorch is gamkein b'kais k'mei b'kiddush, but the Chazal Mesakin, you do it on a kais. V'im hivdil b'tfilah, very interesting. L'kula alma Havdalah ala kais drabonon. If you are mavdil in tefillah, which we all are, hopefully, atzachin antonu, then everyone agrees that the havdalah kais drabonon. The my nafkamina, I'll tell you nafkamina. I've got different bechas at home. We've discussed the shiurim in the past. So Friday night, where the kiddush is deraisa, I try and use a bigger share. But on Shabbos morning, I use a share with the 86cc, with the Chaim Noship, because it's a kiddush drabonon. And I remember speaking to Rabbi about it, and he says, for sure, on the kiddush Shabbos morning, you're using wine and grape juice, that's the preference. And to use a slightly smaller becha. So till now, I must be honest with you, I've always used a larger kos on Motzei Shabbos because I'm always choshish for the Rambam shitza, which is that the kiddush is the havdalah is deraisa. But it was a mistake on my part, because if I've said Atzachin Antonu, he's saying the Mishnah Berurah says over here, Kula Alma Havdalah ala kos is drabonon. So therefore, I could use a smaller kos as long as I remember to say Atzachin Antonu. Okay, pogum. You should be careful not to do on a kos which is pogum. Hainu says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and base. Hainu she'im shoso echod min hayayin mitchila nifkam havdalah. If someone had drunk a little bit of the wine beforehand, then you can't use it for havdalah. U'kamoy le'inyan kiddush le'el b'siman reish ayin aleph Seif Yud, Ayin Shom Mishnah Berurah. V'ayin b'achrenim b'siman kuf pei gimel shema kos ba'atzmei pogum. If the kos itself is is dented or something, ein lahag b'dolavim ein le'ache. If there's nothing else, then use it. Okay, back to the Ramah. Says the Ramah, V'nagu le'ma kodim havdalah she'esim b'bayis hinei kel yeshuasi kos yeshuas esa la'yehudim ha'isa oira l'siman tov. You say all these psukim as a siman tov. Uv'shas havdalah yitnu eineihem b'kos over ner. During Havdalah, your eyes should be on the kais and on the ner. That's a hesach das halacha. V'nagin lishbech mikoyt shel yain al haaretz kodim shesiyem beri pragofen. Just before you say beri pragofen, you spill a bit of the wine. We'll see in a second. This is not the minute today. V'kadei shelo yeh hakos pogum. So the kos shouldn't be pogum. If someone did drink a bit from the wine, you're spilling it out, and therefore the pogum bits is gone. That's like a safeguarding, sort of like a safety net. V'tam hashvicha domrinan kol bayis shenispach bo yain kamayim ein bo siman bracha. That any house where wine doesn't flow like water will never see siman bracha. Whenever we're sitting at the table and someone spills a drink, that is I've heard it from a Reisman. Sometimes you get a bit irritated, especially he said in his house, Rabbi Reisman's got all boys, and he says before Kiddush, when the kids were younger, they had this thing. They knew they couldn't drink before Kiddush, and they would have this thing. They would fill their cups with their Coke or orange juice, whatever they had, till the very brim before Kiddush. So as soon as they made Kiddush, the kids could drink. They knew this halacha. Although strictly speaking, kids can drink before Kiddush, maybe they're after mitzvah, I don't know exactly. And he said inevitably on Friday night there would be 1 or 2 glasses before Kiddush even, which are spilled. And it would irritate him, he said. But then he would always say to himself, Kol bayis she'ein nishbach yain kamayim ein bo siman bracha. So that would console him. That's what he would always say. And whenever something spills in our house, I always say, siman bracha. V'oisin kain l'siman tov b'tchilas hashvua. Gam shoifchin min hakos, and then you pour a little bit from the kos la'ach Havdala or mechabin ba'ner, and then you put the ner into that to put it out. V'roichtzin ba'einov, and you sort of dip your fingers into the spilled wine on the plate. Mishum chivuv ha-mitzvahs, and you wipe them on your eyes. Mishum chivus ha-mitzvah. Okay, says the Mishnah, just to finish off, and then we'll continue tomorrow, Mr. Hashem. Yitnu eineihem ba'kos, sif cotton gimel. You should be looking at the kos. Hainu hamavdil, when the person making Havdala, v'gam hashomim, and those listening as well, ha'inim amein, should look at the kos, kadei shelo yasichu daitam, that their minds shouldn't wander, they should be focused on Havdala. Kadei shelo yihiyah. So this is sif cotton dalad, that you should make sure that you spill a little bit of the wine before Brit Pragofen, so the kos shouldn't be pogum. Hainu, the mishum zeh in a shofech kodim shemaschal habracha, that you shouldn't spill it out before you've even begun the bracha. Kadei shelo yavarich tchilas habracha al kos pogum, al kos pogum she'eina mole, because otherwise if you spill it out too early, then the kos is not going to be mole. And after you finish the bracha, you shouldn't spit it out. To spill it out after the bracha, before you've drunk, that's all. That's a bizu mitzvah. It's a disgrace to the mitzvah. And therefore, that's the pshara. You do it just before you finish off the bracha. This is what I said before. We don't do this nowadays. You don't spill at the time of the bracha. When you pour the water, the wine, the grape juice into your becher, then you do it. You do it full. But you shouldn't do it too much. So in other words, what's he saying? And this is what I mentioned before, that with the Dayan, that's how he used to tell me, or told me once, that when it comes to Kiddush, it says Al Kosi Ayin Mole. I'm not going to repeat the whole story. I told you the story once. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So when he said, I once pulled the grape juice for him for wine for Kiddush on Friday night. So I pulled it right to the top. So he said, "Why are you doing it to the top?" I says, "He says, "Just okay. You can do it just a little bit, a bit less." So why? So I said, "But it says Dayan. It says Al Kosi Ayin Mole." So he says, "No, let me tell you a story. One time he was by Shlomo Zalman. He poured the wine for him when he was making Kiddush, and he was also going to do it at the top. And Shlomo Zalman said, no, you can do it just a little bit before the top." So the guy said, "I state al kosi ayin mole." So Shlomo Zalman says, "Tell me, how do you have your cup of tea? Yeah, you make a tea till the very top. You have it like normal. You drink a coffee or something. You do it, till you leave it a little bit to the top. That's mole. So when it comes to Havdala, you do it mamish to the top. You don't have to spill it overflowing, right? You do it that when you lift the kos, the wine's going to spill. So you do it mamish to the top, that it's going to spill over as you do it. And on the contrary, you shouldn't do it too much. There's baltashchis. Okay. In footnote number 6, just very quickly, what did he say? Interestingly, very interesting. Avol Havdala she'osim b'motzi Shabbos shechol b'leil Yontov das hagan Shlomo Zalman Auerbach she'ein lishbech yayin min Havdala. There you don't do it, because there when you're doubling up and you're making Kiddush and Havdala, then you don't do it. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, let's just finish off. Sif Cotton Vov Shoifchin min hakos, hanu la'achar shtia. So after you've drunk from the wine, then you leave a bit of the wine, you pour it onto the plate, and then you put out the candle. When you drink the kos, you should really be sitting. You don't drink standing up. So for example, on Friday night Kiddush, even those who have the minhag to stand, when they actually drink the wine, they sit. And so to over here, even if you stand for Havdala, you sit when you actually drink the wine. The minhag is that women don't drink from the kos of Havdala. Mikos Havdala and kos Havdala. Rogil hamavda lishtoisa kulei. The person making Havdala should drink the whole thing. And doesn't give to the household to have a little bit. But nira shatam kadei sheyuchel levarich bracha achrona, so that he has enough to make a bracha achrona. Now, why is it that women don't drink from the Havdala? So what's that about? So if you look at footnote 9 at the back on page 25, of the tam hadov kotsav hashla, shehachila chava es adam orishan who eats hagefen. People think it's the apple. There's a machlekes what fruit it was. I don't think there are any shittas which says it's an apple, right? I don't think I'm aware of. Different fruits, but either whatever it is. But one shitta is, it's eitz hagefen. She pressed the grapes and gave him wine to drink. She wanted to sort of separate, if you like, from they caused this problem through wine. That's what the shloss says. So again, back to our Friday night Kiddush on Yontov, and you're making Havdala on the same kos, that's different. Then you can do it. Maybe Kimish Kos Havdala, Gam Koshel Kiddush, Vehevi Raya Ledov, he's got a great Raya. Shenoshim Chayovas Lishtos Kos Rishon Shvelel Seder, Shechol B'motzei Shabbos. The first kos of Seder night is also kos Shel Havdala, but all the women drink that. So therefore on Yontov, it would be okay. And then just lastly, very interesting, if you've got a bit of wine left over for Havdala, people think, you shouldn't. He says you can put it back in the bottle. You add a bit of grape juice from the bottle, and then you can put it back in. So he says, the Stipler says, why? Because ein issa bedova and yain is misbatel b'roiv, etc., etc. Okay, Mr. We'll continue tomorrow.